uh, uh, classes between us, I think. As a So in this session, we will discuss about, or we will do a discussion regarding your unit 4th, in which we will going to study about how to do taxation, accounting for TDS and tax collected at source in GST. Then how we can generate different types of reports related to your final accounts. Okay, like cash book report, hai, ledger account reports, and trial balance, P&L account, balance sheet, fund flow statement, and cash flow statement. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. At first to fifth. So this is your unit 5th, sorry, 4th, taxation, accounting, deducted source at tax collected at source and GST. So basic concept of TDS, if I say, was introduced with collect tax from the various sources of income. Okay. Yes. So for quick and efficient collection of taxes, income tax law, it has done, it has incorporated system of deduction of tax at the point of generating of income. जब आपकी income होगी, at that time there is a system income tax law has incorporated. What is that? That deduction of tax. So this system is called tax deducted at source, which is commonly known as TDS. And under this system, tax is deducted at the origin of income. So tax is deducted by the payer and is remitted to government by the payer on behalf of pay. So if I say about the provisions regarding tax at source, there are various provisions which are applicable to several payments like salary, interest, commission, brokerage, professional fees, royalty, contract payments, etc. So what is about tax deduction, and so what these terms means? Okay, so first of all, we're going to discuss about, according to section 190, what is tax deduction at source and its advance payment relation. Okay, so the total income of an SSE for the previous year is taxable in relevant assessment year. For example, if your total income in previous year of 1920 is taxable in your assessment year 2021. Okay, but income tax is recovered from the SSE in previous year itself through TDS, through TCS, through advance tax. TDS is what? In certain income payment, tax is deducted at source by the payer at prescribed rate at time of accrual or payment of such income to the pay. Then tax collected at source. In certain cases, what has happened? Tax is collected at source by the seller from the buyer. Okay, or a person from his licensee or lessee, etc. at the time of debiting that amount to the account of buyer. Buyer may be licensee or lessee, or the receipt of payment, जो भी earlier होगा, whichever is earlier. Then next is your advance tax. Advance tax in certain cases, SSE is under an obligation to pay that tax in advance in certain installments. So that is advance tax. So when we are going to do the counting for taxation, what we had to do? First of all, we had to go to the tally, gateway of the tally. Okay. Just a second. This is your gateway of the tally. No, ये पहले से open है. I had to quit it. Okay, this is the gateway of tally. Okay, in that what you had to do? Gateway of tally में आपको जाना है and you had to select this one. What? Gateway of Tally F1 features statutory and taxation. Features option select करना है और वहां पे आपको statutory and taxation option select करना है, and there you have to enable the tax deducted at source. That option you have to make it active and press yes so that it can be activated and in the company operation alteration screen. Okay, तो वहां पे आप अगर कोई change करना चाहते हो तो alter TDS details, और display करना चाहते हो तो then you have to select that option of display for TDS deductor details. Okay, so यहाँ पे what you first of all you had to do, you had to go to the gateway of tally, and then you had to under the statutory features के option में statutory और taxation में जाना है, and then you had to select that option that I'm showing you. uh, gateway of tele. Then you had to select the features. In that features, accounts, inventory, statutory, and add-ons. There you had to select the statutory. And here these options are available. Enable the value-added tax, set or alter VAT details. Then enable excise or set or alter the excise details. If you want, then you had to make it this option as yes. And then enable service tax, set or alter service tax details. Enable tax deducted at source and set or alter TDS. Enable tax collected at source, set alter TCS details. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे आपको ये yes कर देना, इनबिल्ट में no है, then you had to make it yes, enter. Then text deductor details, this pen will appear, window screen will appear, where you had to give all the details regarding company's TDS deductor details, its TAN registration number, whatever number is there, that you had to put on. जो भी नंबर है कंपनी का, लाइक 333, देन टेक्स्ट, ये मैंने पहले से फिल किया होता, इट वाज अर्लियर ब्लैंक, तो यहाँ पे आपको ये चीजें फिल आउट करनी है, वट एवर द टैक्स रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर अ कंपनी हैज, देन टैक्स डिडक्शन एंड कलेक्शन अकाउंट नंबर, टैन नंबर, देन डिडक्टर टाइप, विच टाइप ऑफ डिडक्टर टाइप दैट यू हैड टू सेलेक्ट, कि क्या कौन सा जो है सेंट्रल या स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है, कौन सा जो है एजेंसी है, जो गवर्नमेंट है वो ये टैक्स डिडक्ट कर रहे हैं, उनके अकाउंट में जाना है, तो बॉडी ऑफ इंडिविजुअल्स हो सकता है या फिर आपका सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हो सकते हैं, देन इट्स एसटीडी कोड, फोन नंबर, ईमेल, एंड सेट टू अल्टर द डिटेल्स ऑफ पर्सन. इफ इट इज यस, देन यू हैड टू सेट द डिटेल्स ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्सन जिसके नाम से ये जा रहा है. जैसे डिटेल्स में मैंने यस कहा, तो यहाँ पे पर्सन रिस्पॉन्सिबल जो है डिटेल्स उसका नाम आ गया, देन यू कैन एंटर हिज हर नेम, हर his or her name, then he is the son or daughter of whom, then his designation, whether he's a manager or executive, who is responsible, then his PAN number, flat number, residential address, then premises, building, road, area, town, city, state, and pin code, and his mobile number, STD, telephone, email, etc. Okay, and then what are the company's TDS, ये जब आप yes कर दोगे, that details you had fill regarding the person who is responsible, then there are next thing, rate and exemption details. What it is, rate of TDS, if PAN is not available, what rate you had to decide, whether it is 30% or 20%. Then the rate specified here, or the IT rate, whichever is higher, will be applicable. Then ignore the IT exemption limit for the TDS. Agar ignore करनी है, then you had to select the option yes. If you want to activate the TDS for stock items, then you have to select this option yes, and provide surcharge details also, then you have to select this option as yes. Okay, now if as I have selected the surcharge details, as I have made that option as an activated one, that's why this pen window screen has appeared, in which TDS surcharge details we had to fill up. ये मैंने already this I had filled this 7% in all case. It's up to you what according to your company it is. So you can fill it 6%, 5%, then again 6% and 5%. Like company non-resident है, applicable है from 1st April 2024, 6% है, और उसकी exemption क्या है, like that. Okay, so these informations you had to active on, then you can quit it. Okay, so कहाँ से लिया आपने? From the gateway of the tele. First of all क्या किया आपने? जो gateway of tele, there you had entered, and then features of the company. Okay, features of the company you had selected, and in that these 4 options are available, in which you had to select the statutory one, in which in that you had to okay, make the TDS option active, in active mode. You have to press it yes, set or alter details if of TDS details if you want, then you have to make this also as yes. Okay, this is appearing. So gateway of tally, these functions, these in this screen, these things will appear. Then again, in configuration, I had told about you the surcharge details. If you have opt for had activated or opt that key surcharge details should be also shown, then this screen will appear. then you have to save it and enter the 10 registration number, tax deduction and collection account number, deductor type, deductor branch or division. Then I had told about right now, if you want to set the details of the person who is responsible, or want to already had to put that details and want to change those details or modify those details, that is altered as details, then you had to go for that option and there you can change it. Okay. Now, then after doing these all, you had to press the enter, then TDS deductor details will appear like this. जो अभी मैंने आपको show किया है, the deduction and collection account number, head office of 10 number, 10 registration number, this screen will appear. Press enter, then set ignore exemption limit for TDS deduction. Yes, if you want to consider the IT exemption limit. Otherwise, select no if you don't want to consider it. Then activate TDS for stock items. If you want your TDS rate of stock item is defined, then you can opt the option yes, otherwise no. Then set provide surcharge and set details. अगर आप surcharge and cess के details भी चाहते हो कि आपके shown, then you had to make that option yes, otherwise no. Then enter the charge and set details for the deducted status. You can enter the entire you can enter the required surcharge slab details with the applicability date. Okay. Now if the format of 10 number provided is not correct, अगर कोई भी आप incorrect format जो है type करोगे, feed करोगे, तो system में वो नहीं लेगा, it will show a error. So you had to provide the correct input. So in 10 number, if you are not providing the correct input, it will show this type of section account number, head office 10 number, 10 registration number, income tax circular awards, deduction type in proprietorship form, name of the person responsible, son or daughter, and it's designation. Okay, these things already I had showed राइट नाउ आपको समझ आ गया. हेड ऑफिस जिस भी कंपनी का आप टैक्स 10 कलेक्ट कर रहे हो उसका हेड ऑफिस. इन दिस फील्ड एंटर करना है 10 रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर क्या है. दिस इंफॉर्मेशन विल बी कैप्चर्ड इन द फॉर्म 26Q. ये आपके फॉर्म्स होते हैं जहाँ पे आप ये डिटेल्स out. Then income tax circle or ward TDS. Here what is done, enter the income tax circle ward in which deductors are assessed from the TDS with 10 of each person. Then deductor type, according to nature of organization, you had to select the deductor type ki whether it is a government that ये आपको सारे लिस्ट दिखाए थे मैंने कि गवर्नमेंट है, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, कंपनी है. अगर प्रोप्राइटरशिप है, you had to opt the option yes, otherwise no. Then name of the person responsible, like I have said, ki enter the name of the person who is authorized to file the TDS returns of your company. तो जो भी TDS return जो आपकी कंपनी का फाइल कर रहा है person, that person details you had to enter there. Then please note tally RP has a security feature enabled, that username. Okay. Then son or daughter of, in this field enter the name of the parent of the person responsible for filing the TDS. जो भी file TDS उस TDS रिटर्न फाइल कर रहा है तो उसका जो डेजिग्नेशन है दैट आल्सो यू हैड टू मेंशन. ओके. सो कंपनीज के सर्कल और वार्ड से डिडक्टर टाइप क्या है, प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्म है, नेम ऑफ द पर्सन रिस्पांसिबल कौन है, सन या डॉटर राम, और डेजिग्नेशन क्या है, चीफ फाइनेंशियल ऑफिसर. Okay, then you have to press the accept the company's TDS deductor details. Then enter the PAN number. PAN क्या है आपका 10 digit alphanumeric number होता है जो इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट करता है all the taxpayers को whose income is taxable. Okay, so this ABC company statutory taxation option में आपको ये सारे features होंगे जहाँ पे आपको जो add on करना है, that option you have to select. Like TDS, TCS, and fringe benefits also. Okay, then press the enter, accept and save. Then related to surcharge details, like TDS surcharge, if you have opted that option as yes, and you had put the rate of surcharge that it is 2%, or for example it's at 10%, then this surcharge details will also available informations are available, whether what is the residential status of that person, deductee status, then applicability date, किस दिन से applicable है, surcharge rate क्या है, you had put it while you had activated the surcharge details, there you had put that surcharge rate, cess rate, second education cess rate. Okay, then this is the exemption limit. In case of company non-resident, cooperative society non-resident, individual HUF non-resident. Then you have to press Control A to save these details. Only one surcharge amount with corresponding tax rate. The same was supported as shown below. जैसे कंपनी नॉन रेजिडेंट है 2% है, इंडिविजुअल एचयूएफ नॉन रेजिडेंट है 10% है, उनकी एग्जाम्पशन लिमिट ये है, तो सेस 2% एंड सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन सेस विल बी योर 1%. So this was about TDS. Now, income from salary according to section 192. It is applicability of TDS in case of salary. If I say according to section 192, any person responsible for paying the income chargeable under the head salary shall at the form's payment deduct income tax on the amount payable at the average rate of income tax calculated on slab rates or prescribed rates in that financial year in which payment is made. Okay, so in that case, the TDS are applicable under the salary head. Then TDS on non-monetary prerequisites can be paid by the employer, and that is according to section 192, 1A, 18 and 1C. Okay, so section 192, 1A, what employer shall have an option to pay tax on behalf of employee without making any deduction from his income and on the income in the nature of prerequisites. Okay, perquisites. While which are not provided for by way of monetary payment. However, employers shall also continue to have the option to deduct tax on whole part of such income. Okay, then section 192 IB, what it says that for purpose of paying tax by employer under subsection 1A, facts shall determine the average income tax calculated on basis of rates in force in that financial year. And section 192 1C, what it says, it provides that purpose of deducting 192 section 192 1 or 192 subsection 1A, a person being an eligible startup referred to in 1 IAC is responsible for paying any income to SSC being perquisite in any previous year relevant to the assessment year and beginning on or after 1st April 2021 within 14 days. Okay, so within 14 days they had to make the they had to deduct or pay that. Then next employed simultaneously under two employers. कि simultaneously means एक साथ वो दो जगह काम दो in that case वो being सर्व सकता है companies details in form 12B of income tax act under salaries concept salaries had to or received by him for from and agree एक employer को डिटेल्स जो है प्रोवाइड करनी है सैलरी अंडर द हेड सैलरी उसकी सैलरी डिटेल्स बी के अंदर ऑफ इनकम टैक्स जो भी ड्यू और रिसीव बाय हिम फ्रॉम द एम्प्लॉयर एंड सच एम्प्लॉयर शैल डिडक्ट दैट टैक्स ऑन हिज एग्रीगेट सैलरी नॉट ऑन फुल सैलरी ओके payment to employees of government or to the employees of companies etc. जो भी सैलरी पेमेंट है employees of government or employees of इसमें क्या it comes under this where SSC being a government servant हो सकता है employee in a company or cooperative society was under section 89 subsection 1, and he may furnish to his account रखेगा अपने while making TDS, tax deduction at source. So it is the duty of employer to calculate that amount, how much amount should be deducted. Okay, then next is your income from other head in addition to salary. कि अगर आपका कोई भी income other than salary है, then it comes under section 192 subsection 2B, जहाँ पे SSC जो है, he or she is receiving any income except loss under such head other than the loss under head income from house property. Okay, so in addition to salary in the same financial year, he may send the employer first particulars of such income, जो additional income है उसके, then particulars of any tax deducted under any other provision, then particulars of the loss, if any, under the head income from house property. Okay. Then next is statement of perquisites or profits in lieu of salary by employer to employee. It comes under section 192 subsection 20. So the employer here should furnish the details of the person to an employee through a statement giving correct and complete particulars regarding perquisites of profit in lieu of salary provided to him and its value thereof in such form and manner as may be required. Just form or manner में वो required है. He has to provide the complete correct details regarding particulars regarding perquisites of profits in lieu of his salary. Okay. Then rule 26A subsection 2, following 2 points important in this respect when you are saying about the statement of perquisites or profits in lieu of salary by employer to employee. First one is salary paid or payable to should not be more than 1 lakh or should not be that 50,000 rupees. Information agar hai, that information shall be provided in form number 16. Then salary paid या payable to the employee is more than 1,50,000 rupees, then information shall be provided in 128A form number. Okay. Now next is your evidence of claim by employer from the employee. It comes under section 192 subsection 2D. Okay, so here what it says the person responsible for making the payment for the purpose of estimating income of SSC or calculating tax deductible from salary or obtained from the SSC evidence or proof or particulars of prescribed claim under the provisions of act in such form and manner should be prescribed. Okay. Then next is adjustment in the amount of TDS on salary. If you want to have some adjustment in the amount of TDS on salary, then it comes under section 192 subsection 3. What it says the person responsible for making the payment may at the time of making any deduction at tax increase कर सकता है या reduce कर सकता है जो भी amount deduct होगा under this section. For what purpose? For the purpose of adjusting any excess or deficiency arising out of previous deduction or failure to deduct during that financial year. Okay, so this is about TDS on recognized PF. Then TDS on contribution paid to an employee out of approved superannuation fund under the section 192 subsection 5. When where any contribution, if any contribution is made by an employer including interest on that such contributions, if any, in approved superannuation fund is to be paid to employee, then tax on that amount so paid shall be deducted by the trustees of the fund to the extent provided in Rule 6 of Part B of the 4th schedule. So up to that extent they can deduct the amount. Then salary payable in foreign currencies. अगर salary जो है is payable in foreign currencies, then it comes under section 192 subsection 6. For the purpose of deduction of tax on salary payable in foreign currency, तो जो value है rupees की of such salary it should be calculated at the prescribed rate of exchange. कि उस टाइम पे जो rate of exchange है वो कितना है, on that basis the salary value in rupees would be calculated. Then second is your payment of accumulated balance due to an employee, section 192A. इसमें क्या है कि जो आपका accumulated balance due है एम्प्लॉय का, तो उसकी अगर आपको पेमेंट करनी है, then in that case it comes under section 192A, and what conditions you had to follow. First of all, applicability of TDS in case of payment of accumulated balance due to an employee. So this means जो application है TDS का, if you are doing that in case of payment of accumulated balance due to an employee, तो वो कैसे करोगे? Tax is to be deducted by the trustee of Employees Provident Fund Scheme 1952 or any person who is authorized under the scheme to make payment of accumulated balance due to employees. Okay, तो यहाँ पे जो trustees हैं Employees Provident Fund Scheme 1952 के according जो है tax is to be deducted. And what will be the rate of TDS? So rate of tax deductible at service is 10%, in which no surcharge, no education cons if pay is resident, add surcharge and education cess. This is not cons cess if pay is non-resident. Okay. तो अगर rate of TDS is your 10%, but here the condition is कि if pay अगर resident है, is a resident of India, then no surcharge, no education cess here to add. Otherwise, if pay is non-resident, then you had to add surcharge and education cess. Then timing of TDS. Timing of TDS means the tax shall be deducted of the time of making payment. कि जो timing है, at the time of making payment you had to deduct the tax. Then conditions, the fund from which payment is to be made must be provident fund. जिससे भी आप pay TDS का, it should be a recognized one. Second, जो accumulated balance है due है जो employees का, is includable in the fourth schedule not being applicable. Okay, then fifth is threshold limit for deduction of tax at source at under the section 192A के according. जो threshold limit है कि इस limit तक जो है आप deduct कर सकते हो tax, तो जो limit है that is no tax deduction is made under this section, and if amount of such payment or aggregate amount of payment to the payee is less than 50,000. ठीक है, तो कोई भी टैक्स डिडक्शन नहीं करेंगे सेक्शन के अकॉर्डिंग. किस केस में? इफ द अमाउंट ऑफ सच पेमेंट, अगर वो अमाउंट, उस पेमेंट का जो अमाउंट है या एग्रीगेट अमाउंट है उस पेमेंट का टू द पे इज लेस देन 50,000, तो कोई भी डिडक्शन नहीं करेंगे. ओके, देन डिडक्शन एट मैक्सिमम मार्जिनल रेट in case of non-submission of PAN. If the person has not submitted its PAN number, तो उस केस में जो डिडक्शन है at maximum marginal rate होगा. ओके, तो इसका मतलब है जो भी पर्सन एंटाइटल्ड है रिसीव करने के लिए एनी अमाउंट ऑन विच टैक्स इज डिडक्टेबल अंडर दिस सेक्शन, what he has to do, he has to provide his permanent account number to the person, to whom, to the person who is responsible for calculating or deducting that tax. Okay, तो पर्सन जिसे भी ये अमाउंट रिसीव करना है डिडक्टेबल जो है अंडर सेक्शन, उसको क्या करना है, उसको परमानेंट अकाउंट नंबर, अपना पैन नंबर उस पर्सन को देना है जो कि रिस्पॉन्सिबल है फॉर कैलकुलेटिंग दैट टैक्स. और अगर वो नहीं दे पाता है, इफ ही फेल्स टू डू सो, तो टैक्स वुड बी डिडक्टेबल एट द मैक्सिमम मार्जिनल रेट. ओके, तो टैक्स कैसे डिडक्ट होगा आपका? मैक्सिमम रेट के अकॉर्डिंग, मैक्सिमम मार्जिनल रेट. नाउ third is your interest on securities. Interest on securities, what it says, just a second. Sorry. So interest on securities according to section 193, what it says, ki person is responsible for deduction of tax at source. So any person who is responsible for making the payment of interest on related securities to any resident person should deduct the tax at source. Okay, so they had to deduct the tax at source, that is TDS, and rate of TDS 10%, and no surcharge and no health or education cess will be there. And per section 206A subsection A1, if the PAN number is not provided by the security holder, then tax shall be deducted at the higher rates following the rates that at the rates किस रेट पे वो डिडक्ट करेंगे अगर वो पैन नंबर नहीं प्रोवाइड करते हैं, at the rate of 20% या फिर at the rate or rates in force prevailing जो rate होंगे, या फिर at the rate specified in the relevant provisions of the act. So इन तीनों में से whatever rate they can decide on. Then time of TDS. TDS basically tax should be deducted at time of credit of such income to the account of payee or at the time of payment thereof in cash or by check, draft or by any other mode whichever is earlier. तो जो time है वो depend करेगा जो tax आप TDS जो collect कर रहे हो of such income to the account of payee या फिर account in payment के case में whether it is in cash or by issue of check or draft or any other mode जो भी earlier होगा. Okay. Then threshold limit for deduction of tax at source under section 193. No tax deduction is to be made under this section if amount of interest is less than 10,000. तो आपको कोई deduction नहीं करनी है if your interest amount is less than 10,000 rupees. Then non-applicability of TDS under section 193. So no tax deduction is to be made from any interest payable, means any interest payable on 4% national defense bonds 1972 where bonds are held by the individual or not being a non-resident, or an interest payable to an individual on 4% national defense loan 1968 or 4% national defense loan 1972. Then any interest payable on national development bonds or any interest payable on 7-year national savings certificate fourth issue. Okay, or any interest, ये सारे cases हैं जहां पे आपका TDS कट नहीं होगा. Okay. Then next is your any interest payable on such debentures issued by institution or authority or any public sector company or any cooperative और एनी कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी इंक्लूडिंग अ कोऑपरेटिव लैंड मॉर्गेज बैंक है या फिर कोऑपरेटिव एंड लैंड डेवलपमेंट बैंक है, और इट मे बी अ सेंट्रल बैंक बाय नोटिफिकेशन इन द ऑफिशियल गैजेट specify in this behalf. Okay. Then any interest payable on 6% gold bond rate, gold bonds, that is 1977, or 7% gold bonds 1980, with bonds are held by an individual not being a not resident and holder thereof makes a declaration in writing before the person responsible for paying interest that total nominal value of 6% bonds 1977 or the case may be 7% gold bonds 1980 held by him, including such bonds if any held on his any other person, did not in either case exceed 10,000 any time during the period to which the interest relates. तो इस कंडीशन में भी वो जो है TDS नहीं कट करेंगे. Then any interest payable on then any interest payable to an individual or a Hindu family who is resident in India, जो reside करे इंडिया में, on any debenture issued by a company in which the public are substantially interested if the rate जो है, if जो interest paid है, amount of interest paid on such debenture during financial year by that company to such individual or Hindu undivided family does not exceed rupees 5,000. Okay, so जो interest paid है उस debenture पे during that financial year by company to that individual or Hindu undivided family को वो exceed नहीं करना चाहिए आपका 5,000 rupees. Okay, and such interest is paid by the by the company by an account through check, account pay through check. Okay, तो वो interest जो है company pay कर रही है to the account pay through check. Then next is any interest payable to LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India, established under Life Insurance Corporation Act 1956, 31 of 1956, in respect to any security owned by it or in which it has full beneficial interest. तो वहां पे भी you don't have to pay or you don't have to deduct the tax at source, tax deductible at source. So next is any interest payable on securities. Any interest payable on securities beneficially held by LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India, or General Insurance Corporation of India, or any of the four companies formed by the virtue of scheme framed under Section 16, subsection 1 of the General Insurance Business Nationalization Act 1972 or any other insurer. तो वहां पे भी you don't have to collect the TDS. Then last one is an interest payable to any other insurer in respect of any securities owned by it or in which it has full beneficial interest. So it has full beneficial interest means कि जो interest payable है to any other insurer regarding the securities owned by or in which it has full beneficial interest, in that also, in that case also you don't have to do the TDS. Now next is dividends according to section 194. Applicability of TDS in case of payment of dividend. Tax is to be deducted by the principal officer of Indian company or company which has made prescribed arrangements for the declaration and payment of dividend within India. Okay, so dividend including dividend on preference shares also. Okay, so tax जो है TDS should be deducted by whom? Principal officer of the Indian economy or a company of Indian company which has made prescribed arrangements regarding the declaration and payment of dividends, and rate of TDS should be 10%, and timing and mode of TDS, what it should be, the just a second. Okay, so timing and mode of TDS means जो tax deductible source है, before making any payment by any mode in respect to any divide or before making any distribution or a payment to shareholder who is resident in India. So before making any distribution or payment to a shareholder who is residing in the India, so TDS shall be deducted before I'm making any payment to them. Okay, now conditions are कि जो provisions and that should be applicable to any dividend specified under sections 2 subsection 22A or section 2 subsection 22 subsection B or section 2 22C, section 2 subsection 22 subsection 22D, then subsection 2 section 2 subsection 22 subsection E. Okay, and shareholder should be resident in India. तो वो कंडीशंस है कि शेयर होल्डर जो है रेसिडेंट होना चाहिए इंडिया का, एंड प्रोविजन शैल बी एप्लीकेबल टू एनी डिविडेंड रिलेटेड टू दीज सेक्शंस. देन टाइमिंग एंड मोड ऑलरेडी आई टोल्ड कि जो टैक्स का टैक्स जो टीडीएस आप काटोगे वो बिफोर मेकिंग पेमेंट टू शेयर होल्डर यू हैड टू कट द टीडीएस इन रिस्पेक्ट टू any divide or before making any distribution of payment to shareholder. Then next is your non-applicability of TDS under section 192A. Okay, so no tax deduction is to be made under this section if following conditions are fulfilled. अगर ये conditions follow up होती हैं, followed होती हैं, तो there will be no deduction of TDS. Okay, non-applicability should be there of TDS under section 192A. So first condition, what it is? It is about the dividend is paid by the company by any mode other than the cash. Then second is जो डिविडेंड पेड किया है कंपनी ने किसी भी मोड में किया है other than cash. Second is जो amount है such dividend का during the financial year it should not exceed 2,500. It's not live. Some mistakes are there in your study material, so I had to correct. So जो आपका financial year dividend amount होगा, it should not exceed 2,500 and limit of 2,500 has been increased to rupees 5,000. So 2,500 से 5,000. This limit has been increased with effect from 11/4/2020. Then dividend is credited or paid to LIC Life Insurance Corporation of India, established under Life Insurance Corporation Act 1956, in respect of any shares owned by it or in which it has full beneficial interest. Okay, so the dividend जो भी है, it is credited or paid to LIC under LIC Act 1956 in respect of shares owned by it or in which it has the full beneficial interest. Then next is dividend is credited or paid to General Insurance Corporation of India. Hereafter, in this provision referred to as the dividend is credited or paid to General Insurance Corporation of India, hereafter in this provision referred to as corporation, or to any of the 4 companies under it in respect of shares owned by that corporation. Okay, so these are the conditions where TDS is non-applicable according to section 192A. Then next is your interest other than interest on securities, कि जो आप interest देते हो securities पे मिलता है जो आपको interest, अगर उसके अलावा भी कुछ इंटरेस्ट है तो व्हाट इज द एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ दैट टीडीएस कि उस पे लगेगा या नहीं, एंड व्हाट रेट, क्या टाइमिंग्स होंगे, और अगर नहीं लगना है तो नॉन एप्लीकेबिलिटी क्या है. ओके, तो यहाँ पे इंटरेस्ट अदर देन इंटरेस्ट ऑन सिक्योरिटीज that is section comes under section 194A. Okay, so first point regarding this is sorry, not well today. So interest other than or interest on security, section 194 के according we will discuss whether if there is interest other than securities, if company is paying or receiving, then what any person is receiving, then what is the applicability of TDS, whether TDS is to be deducted or not. Okay, so applicability of TDS according to section 194 subsection A. Any person not being an individual or Hindu undivided family who is responsible for paying to a resident any income by way of interest other than income by way of interest on security. So कोई भी person जो कि एक individual या Hindu undivided family नहीं है और जो कि responsible है pay करने के लिए to a resident any income through interest by way of interest other than the income by way of interest on securities, तो वहां पे TDS applicable होगा. Then any individual or a Hindu undivided family whose total sales or gross receipts or turnover from the business or profession जो भी वो कैरी कर रहे हैं, अगर उनसे जो उनका टोटल सेल्स है, ग्रॉस रिसिप्ट्स हैं या टर्नओवर है उनके प्रोफेशन का या बिजनेस का carried by him exceeds rupees 1 crore in case of business, 50 lakh rupees in case of profession during that financial year immediately preceding the financial year in which such interest is credited or paid shall be liable to deduct TDS. Okay, so should be liable to deduct income tax under this section. So this was about applicability of TDS and what rate of TDS should be there. It should be 10%. Then timing of TDS, section 194A subsection 1 के according the timing should be what? The deduction of tax is to be made at the time of crediting such interest to the account of pay. जब आप interest को credit करोगे account pay के account में, that is the time or that is the time of payment thereof in cash or by issue or by a check, draft, any other mode जो भी earlier होगा. Okay, तो जो time आप payment कर रहे हो, deduction of tax is to be made at what time? at time of crediting such interest to the account of pay or at the time of making payment. तो दोनों में से जो earlier होगा, चाहे आप चेक के थ्रू पे कर रहे हो या इश्यू कर रहे हो ड्राफ्ट या फिर कोई any other mode, then whichever is earlier, in that way it should be deducted. Then what are the various conditions of non applicability of TDS under section 194A? Non-applicability of TDS under section 194A, what it says, section 194A subsection 3 के according जो provisions हैं कि यहाँ पे जो है TDS will not be applicable. So what are those cases? First one, where the amount of such interest during the financial year does not exceed. जहाँ पे जो amount है interest का during a financial year, it should not exceed first 40,000 rupees, where the payer is banking company to which the Banking Regulation Act 1945 applies. Okay, तो Banking Regulation Act 1945 के according कोई भी बैंक है जो payer है, अगर कोई बैंक जो कि बैंकिंग रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1945 के अंदर आता है एंड ही इज दैट बैंक इज अ पेयर, his amount is not exceeding during for financial year rupees 40,000, तो वहां पे टीडीएस एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. Then where the amount of such interest during the financial year does not exceed rupees 40,000, where payer is the cooperative society engaged in carrying on business of banking. तो यहाँ पे बैंकिंग कंपनी थी, यहाँ पे कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी है जो कि एंगेज है कैरिंग ऑन बिजनेस ऑफ बैंकिंग, तो वहां भी उनके लिए 40,000 रुपीज की लिमिट है. देन थर्ड इज 40,000 रुपीज लिमिट है टू ऑन एनी डिपॉजिट विद पोस्ट ऑफिस. अब पोस्ट ऑफिस आ गया यहाँ पे, बैंकिंग कंपनी, कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी. नाउ पोस्ट ऑफिस अंडर एनी स्कीम फ्रेम बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड नोटिफाइड बाय इट इन behalf and it's by it in this behalf. तो अगर उनकी भी इनकम जो है इंटरेस्ट इनकम जो फाइनेंशियल ईयर के 40,000 से ज्यादा नहीं है, does not exceed 40,000, then the provision of TDS shall not be applicable. The next is to such income credited or paid by a firm to a partner of the firm. Third, to such income credited or paid by the cooperative society to a member thereof, or to such income credited or paid by a cooperative society to any other cooperative society in that case. And last one, to credited or paid in respect of deposits under any scheme framed by central government and notified by it in behalf of official gazette. तो अगर ऐसी इनकम क्रेडिटेड है या पेड है इन रिस्पेक्ट टू दोज डिपॉजिट्स किसी भी स्कीम के अंदर फ्रेम जो कि फ्रेम किए सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने और वो नोटिफाइड करती हैं बार बार ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ ऑफिशियल गैजेट, तो वहां भी ये एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा टीडीएस. So these are the points. Then next point is to such income credited or paid in respect of deposits other than time deposits made on 1st July 1995 with a banking company to which Banking Regulation Act 1945 applies. कि जो भी बैंक है या बैंकिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन रिफर्ड है सेक्शन 51 के अकॉर्डिंग ऑफ दैट एक्ट, तो वहां पे जो भी इनकम क्रेडिट हो रही है या इन रिस्पेक्ट टू डिपॉजिट्स पेड हुई है विद अ बैंकिंग कंपनी अकॉर्डिंग टू बैंकिंग रेगुलेशंस एक्ट 1949 सॉरी, तो वहां भी आपका जो है टीडीएस एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. Then last is to such income credited or paid in respect of deposits with primary agricultural credit society or primary credit society, or it may be a cooperative land mortgage bank or cooperative land development bank. The next is to such income credited or paid in respect of deposits other than deposits made on or after 1st July 1995 with a cooperative society other than a cooperative society or bank referred in subsection A, या फिर engage in carrying on business on the banking. Okay, so these are the conditions where TDS is not applicable. Now next is if there is an income from winning from lottery or crossword puzzle. क्रॉसवर्ड पजल है या फिर लॉटरी से आप कुछ जीत रहे हो, तो on that income whether TDS is applicable or not, so it comes under section 194B. And what it says, the person responsible for deduction of tax at source, who is the person जो भी पे करेगा किसी और पर्सन को इनकम बाय वे ऑफ विनिंग फ्रॉम लॉटरी और क्रॉसवर्ड पजल और कार्ड गेम और अदर गेम एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ इन अमाउंट एक्सीडिंग रुपीज 10,000. अगर 10,000 से ज्यादा का अमाउंट है वो, तो वहां पे आपका टीडीएस कट होगा और किस रेट के हिसाब से 30%, 30%. तो वहां पे रेट क्या होगा 30%। और टाइमिंग कब टीडीएस कटेगा जब आप पेमेंट कर रहे हो उस इनकम की। तो वो पेमेंट जो है अगर आपकी एक्सीड करती है विनिंग फ्रॉम लॉटरी और एनी अदर गेम और क्रॉसवर्ड पजल और इट मे बी अ लॉटरी, तो वहां पे जो अमाउंट है गेम का वो अगर ₹10,000 एक्सीड कर जाता है तो रेट ऑफ टीडीएस जो है 30% होगा। और व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू मेक दैट पेमेंट on while making payment, that will be the timing of deducting TDS. And cases where the winnings are partly in kind and partly in cash, कि अगर ये भी केस हो सकता है कि जो विनिंग है वहां पे टोटल कैश जो है एट ए टाइम नहीं प्रोवाइडेड है, पार्टली पेमेंट इज डन इन कैश एंड पार्टली पेमेंट इज डन इन काइंड, तो वहां पे क्या होगा, पार्ट इन कैश इज नॉट सफिशिएंट टू मीट द लायबिलिटी ऑफ डिडक्शन इन टैक्स इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ होल ऑफ द विनिंग्स। देन इनकम फ्रॉम विनिंग फ्रॉम हॉर्स रेस, अगर कोई इनकम थ्रू विनिंग ऑफ द हॉर्स रेस इज देयर तो इट कम्स अंडर सेक्शन 194 BB। एंड हेयर पर्सन एनी पर्सन जो भी रिस्पॉन्सिबल है पे करने के लिए किसी पर्सन को दैट इनकम बाय वे ऑफ विनिंग ऑफ एनी हॉर्स रेस एन अमाउंट एक्सीडिंग ₹10,000, तो वहां भी 10,000 से ज्यादा होगा तो आपका टीडीएस अप्लाइड होगा, 30% रेट होगा। और टाइमिंग क्या होगा जब आप उसकी पेमेंट करोगे। सो दिस वाज अबाउट हॉर्स winning. Then next is construction or renovation payment to contractors according to section 194 subsection C। एप्लीकेबिलिटी जो है टीडीएस की, कोई भी पर्सन जो भी रिस्पॉन्सिबल है पे करने का एनी सम टू द रेसिडेंट जो कि ये काम कर रहा है, कैरिंग आउट एनी वर्क विच इंक्लूड सप्लाई ऑफ लेबर फॉर कैरिंग आउट एनी वर्क इन प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बिटवीन द कॉन्ट्रैक्टर एंड दैट स्पेशलाइज्ड पर्सन। तो वहां पे अगर कोई काम करा रहा है और वो रिस्पॉन्सिबल है उसको पे आउट करने के लिए, देन देयर इज एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ टीडीएस अकॉर्डिंग टू सेक्शन 194C subsection 1। Then what will be the timing and mode of that TDS? This will be according to section 194C subsection 1। जो टैक्स होगा TDS होगा ऑफ डिडक्ट होगा, टाइमिंग क्या होगा उसका, जब आप टाइम ऑफ क्रेडिट ऑफ सच सम टू द अकाउंट ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्टर एट द टाइम ऑफ मेकिंग पेमेंट, और वो पेमेंट जब आप पे कर रहे हो दैट विल बी द टाइमिंग। एंड दैट मोड ऑफ पेमेंट इट शुड बी वेदर इट शुड बी इट इन द कैश और थ्रू चेक और ड्राफ्ट और एनी अदर मोड, जो भी अर्लियर वो जिस भी मोड में पेमेंट करेंगे दैट विल बी द मोड, की वो चेक के थ्रू कर रहे हैं या फिर ड्राफ्ट के थ्रू या फिर दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग द कैश। सो टाइमिंग व्हाट वुड बी द, it would be when you are making the payment. Then rate of TDS. What will be the rate of TDS under section 194C? It is as follows: 1% where the payment is made or credit is being given to individual or HUF, Hindu Undivided Family। तो वहां पे 1% पेमेंट इज बिंग मेड, और 2% कब होगी जब अदर पे ही है, वेयर पेमेंट इज मेड और क्रेडिट इज बिंग गिवन टू पर्सन other than individual or Hindu divided family। So pay rate of percent कितना होगा 1% in case of individual and HUF, other than individual and HUF it would be 2%। Okay, then as per section 1940 subsection 3, where any sum is paid or credited for manufacturing or supplying a product according to requirement or specification of a customer by using material purchased from such customer or its associate, तो उस केस में TDS shall be deducted on what basis, जहां पे वैल्यू जो है मटेरियल की is separately mentioned in the invoice and value exceeding the value of material purchased from such customer, तो वहां पे TDS applicable होगा, डिडक्ट करोगे आप TDS। Second, when the where the value of material is not mentioned separately in the invoice on the whole of invoice value, तो जहां पे separately mentioned है in the invoice on the invoice value excluding value of material purchased from such customer, तो वहां पे TDS will be deducted। Second, जहां पे value of material is not mentioned separately in the invoice, तो वहां पे आपका TDS डिडक्ट होगा। then Hindu Undivided Family or individual not to deduct tax if the payment is for personal use and it comes under section 1940 subsection 4 के, अगर कोई पेमेंट पर्सनल यूज के लिए जो इंडिविजुअल ने की है, पर्सनल पर्पस के लिए की है, तो वहां पे कोई भी टैक्स आपका डिडक्ट नहीं होगा। सो नो टैक्स टू बी डिडक्टेड एट सोर्स in respect to which the payments which are made by individual or HUF to a contractor exclusively for their personal purpose, तो वहां पे it will not be deducted। then what will be the threshold limit for deduction of TDS? And threshold limit is according of deduction of TDS is according to section 1940 subsection 5. So no deduction shall be made from the amount of any sum credited or paid to the contractor if such sum does not exceed rupees 30,000. Okay, where the aggregate of amount of such sum credited, paid, or likely to be credited or paid during that financial year exceeds rupees 1 lakh. Then non-applicability of TDS. Non-applicability of TDS comes under section 194C subsection 6, where it says that no deduction shall be made from any sum credited or paid or likely to be credited or paid during the previous year to the account of contractor during course of business of plying, hiring, leasing goods carriages, where such contractors owes 10 or less goods carriages of any time during previous year, and furnish a declaration to that effect with his PAN number, that is permanent account number, to the person paying or credit such sum. Okay. Then insurance commission. Insurance commission basically comes under section 194D, and what it says, applicability of TDS is under 194D. So any person who is responsible for paying to the resident any income by way of reward or remuneration or by way of commission or by way of soliciting its business, so they can deduct the tax at source. TDS may be deducted. And what will be the rate of TDS? For in case of domestic company, it will be 10%, and in case of other pay, it would be 5%. And what will be the timing of that deduction? When they are making the payment, whether through cash, or either through cash or through issue of check or draft, whichever mode they are using, and whichever is earlier. Okay, तो जो भी mode वो earlier use कर रहे हैं, that mode, that will be the time of making the deduction. Then what is the threshold limit for deduction at TDS? तो आपका जो threshold limit है, what it would be? So no deduction shall be made under this section in case where such income or aggregate of such amount of income is credited or paid or likely to be credited or paid during the financial year on the account of pay does not exceed rupees 15,000. Okay, rupees 15,000. Then next is your related to life insurance policy, LIC, that comes under section 194 DA. What it says the applicability of TDS under section 194 DA. So any person who is responsible for paying to resident any sum under life insurance policy, including sum allocated by way of bonus on such policy or other amount other than amount not includable the total income under section 10 subsection 100, deduct tax thereon. Okay, then they had to deduct the tax, and rate of deduction of tax should be 5% on amount of income comprised thereon. Then timing, at what will be the timing? The timing at that timing would be what? At that time when you are making the payment. Okay, so that will be the timing of deduction of tax. Then what will be the threshold limit of deduction of TDS? No deduction under this section shall be made where amount of such payment, or as the case may be, aggregate amount of such payment to the pay during the financial year is less than rupees 1 lakh. So these are about life insurance policy, TDS would be deducted or not. Then next is your payment to non-resident sports person, or you can say sportsman or sports association. So I'm going to take the break of 5 minutes, then we will continue further. Okay, so we are continuing this session. So payment to non-resident sports person or sportsman sport association, we had discussed sport associations. Then now next is your timing deposit national savings scheme that comes under section 194EE. Applicability and timing of TDS under this section is the person who is responsible to pay any person any amount referred to section 80 CCA subsection 2 subsection A shall at the time of payment thereof deduct the TDS. Okay, making the payment at the time of making payment, they had to deduct the TDS. And what is the rate of TDS? In case of resident, it is 10%. In case of non-resident, it is 10%, in which you had to add on the surcharge and health and education cess. Okay, include that also. Then threshold limit for deduction of TDS is no deduction shall be made under this section where the amount of such payment, as the case may be, aggregate amount of such payment to pay during that financial year is less than 2500 rupees. Okay, this is the threshold limit. अगर उस financial year में pay को आप payment कर रहे हो and it is less than rupees 2500, whether it is a aggregate amount or making such payment or in any amount, तो कोई भी deduction will not be made. Then non-applicability of TDS under section 194EE. This section shall not apply to the payment of said amount to the heirs of SEC. Then 13 is payment on account of repurchase of units by mutual fund or unit trust of India according to section 194F. जो person responsible है किसी भी person को pay out करने के लिए ये amount according to subsection 2 of section 80CCB, at time of payment thereof they had to deduct the TDS at the rate of 20%. And what will be the rate of pay at that टाइम ऑफ मेकिंग पेमेंट? रेट ऑफ टीडीएस एज परसेंटेज ऑफ अमाउंट पेड और पेबल. जो अमाउंट पेबल है या उन्होंने पे कर दिया है उसका परसेंटेज जो है रेट ऑफ टीडीएस 20% निकालेंगे. या फिर he is a resident or non-resident. In that case, if he is a resident 5%, non-resident 5%, then in that he had to add the surcharge, health and education cess. Explanation basically क्या है? For the purpose of this section where any income is credited to any account, whether it's a suspense account or by the name in the books of person liable to pay such income, such credit shall be deemed to be credit of such income to account of pay, and the provision of this section shall be applicable accordingly. Then commission or brokerage hai, so in that case how TDS will be deducted. Commission or brokerage comes under the section 194H, and applicability of TDS under section 194H is कि कोई भी person who is responsible, any person who is responsible for paying to a resident or any income by way of commission or commission referred to as insurance commission according to section 194D या फिर brokerage है, shall deduct the tax thereon. लेकिन if an individual or HUF family whose total sales, gross receipts या turnover जो है उनके business का or any business or profession carried on by him exceeds 31 crore rupees in case of business, 50 lakh rupees in case of profession during that financial year, and immediately preceding financial year and with such commission and brokerage is credited or paid, तो वहां पे TDS applicable होगा. Okay, and rate of TDS will be 5%. Timing of TDS deduction at the time कब करना है? When you are making the payment of such income, whether it is in cash or through check or draft, whatever mode you are using and whichever mode you are using, which is the earlier one. Then threshold limit for deduction deduction of tax at source. No deduction shall be made under this section in case where the amount of such income or as the case may be जो है 15,000 से ज्यादा exceed नहीं होनी चाहिए. अगर 15,000 से exceed हो जाएगी then the TDS should be this is the threshold कि TDS would be deducted. Then non-applicability of TDS under section 194H. It says that no deduction shall be made under this section on any commission or brokerage payable by BSNL or Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited to their public call office franchisees. So expression यहाँ पे जो securities है shall have the meaning assigned to it in section 2H of Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956. Then now in case of rent, section 194 up to 1, what it says, applicability of TDS, any person not being an individual or HUF who is responsible for paying to a resident any income by way of rent shall deduct the TDS. And there the rate of TDS will be in case of machinery, plant and equipment 2%. In case of land and building or land to a building including factory building or factory fittings, furniture and fittings, it should be 10%. एंड टाइमिंग जब आप पेमेंट करोगे वेदर चेक ड्राफ्ट और कैश तो जो भी अर्लियर होगा इन दैट यू दैट विल बी द टाइमिंग इन दैट वे जो भी अर्लियर है देन थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट क्या होगी नॉट मोर देन अगर एक्सीड नहीं करना चाहिए व्हाट 2,40,000 रुपीज मींस उससे ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए इफ इट इज मोर देन 2 लाख it exceeds 2,40,000 more than 2,40,000 then there is a this is the threshold limit then TDS will be deducted. And non-applicability, if I say no deduction shall be made under this section where income by way of rent is credited or paid to a business trust या फिर being a real estate investment trust in respect of any real estate asset referred to in section 10(23) FCA owned directly by such business trust. The next is your payment on transfer of certain immovable property other than agricultural land कि जो other than agricultural land है and certain type of immovable property you do have then what is the applicability rate timing of TDS regarding TDS. So applicability rate and timing is what कोई भी person being a transferee responsible for paying to a resident transferor any sum by way of consideration of transfer of any immovable property shall at the time of credit of such sum to account of transferor or at the time of payment या तो वो पेमेंट कर रहे हैं या क्रेडिट कर रहे हैं एट दैट टाइम इन कैश और बाय इश्यू ऑफ बाय थ्रू कैश और बाय इश्यू ऑफ चेक और ड्राफ्ट or by any other mode जो भी earlier है whichever is earlier should deduct an amount equal to 1% of such income tax thereon. तो 1% of such income tax thereon deduct करेंगे वो. Then what is the threshold limit? It is 50 lakh rupees if immovable property की जो value है transferable value है वो less than 50 lakh rupees है then this is the threshold limit कोई deduction नहीं होगी no deduction would be there. Non applicability the provision of sections of 203A containing requirement of obtaining TDS obtaining tax deduction account number shall not apply to person required to deduct tax in accordance with the provisions of section 194(1)(a). The next is your payment of rent by certain individuals or HUF. अगर आप रेंट का पेमेंट कर में भी कुछ ना कुछ थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट होती है टाइमिंग होती है तो वो क्या है एंड इन दैट केस TDS how TDS is being deducted. So applicability of rate कोई भी person whether it's an individual or HUF other than individual HUF whose total sales gross receipts year turnover from business or profession carried on by him in the monetary limits exceed the monetary limits of 1 crore and 50 lakhs respectively immediately preceding financial year is responsible for paying to resident any income by way of rent exceeding 50,000 for a month or a part of month during previous year shall deduct an amount equal to 5% of such income on income tax thereon. तो 5% का जो है वो अमाउंट डिडक्ट करेंगे. टाइमिंग क्या होगी डिडक्शन जो टैक्स का टाइम डिडक्शन करना है जो टैक्स का उसकी टाइमिंग क्या होगी इट शुड बी मेड एट द टाइम ऑफ क्रेडिट ऑफ रेंट जब क्रेडिट होगा रेंट उस टाइम पे फॉर द लास्ट मंथ ऑफ प्रीवियस ईयर और द लास्ट मंथ ऑफ टेनेंसी if the property is vacated during the year to the account of pay or at the time of payment therefore in cash by check or any other mode whichever is earlier. Then non-applicability in what cases it is non-applicable the provision of sections 203A contains containing the requirement of obtaining TDS 10 tax deduction account number shall not apply to person required to deduct tax in accordance with the provision of one section. Then deduction not exceed rent for the last month. In case where जहाँ पे टैक्स जो है रिक्वायर्ड है डिडक्ट करने के लिए एज पर प्रोविजन 206A तो वहाँ पे जो डिडक्शन है इट शुड नॉट बी एक्सीड द अमाउंट ऑफ रेंट पेबल फॉर लास्ट मंथ ऑफ द प्रीवियस ईयर जो प्रीवियस ईयर का आपका लास्ट मंथ है उसमें जो आपने रेंट पे किया है इट शुड नॉट एक्सीड दैट रेंट अमाउंट और द लास्ट मंथ ऑफ टेनेंसी एज द केस में बी. In that case, it is not deductible. Then payment under specific agreement. Any person जो भी according to section 194 IC जो भी person responsible है किसी भी resident को pay करने के लिए कोई sum whether by way of consideration not being consideration in kind under the agreement referred to section 45 subsection 5A shall at time of credit or making that payment whether in cash or through issue of check or draft or any other mode जो भी earlier है तो उसको डिडक्शन करना है टैक्स का कितना इक्वल टू 10% ऑफ सच सम एज इनकम टैक्स देयर ऑन तो 10% इक्वल टू डिडक्ट करना है देन फीस ऑफ प्रोफेशनल और टेक्निकल सर्विसेज जो प्रोफेशनल एंड टेक्निकल सर्विसेज की फीस है अगर उनकी जो फीस रिसीव होती है तो उसमें भी क्या रेट ऑफ टीडीएस है कितना बेंचमार्क है और एप्लीकेबिलिटी क्या है टाइमिंग क्या है थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट क्या है तो दैट इज अगर फीस जो है प्रोफेशनल पर्सन की कोई भी पर्सन चाहे वो हिंदी इंडिविजुअल है या हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली का मेंबर who is responsible for paying to resident any sum by way of fees or professional service he has provided or technical services he has provided or any lecture he has delivered on the remuneration basis or fees or commission he is getting by whatever name called other than those on which tax is deductible under section 192 to a director or a company या फिर royalty है any sum referred to section 28 वे फीस फॉर नॉन कॉम्पिटेंस है तो वहां पे टीडीएस लगेगा and जो rate होगा it is then amount equal to 2% of such sum in case of fees of technical services not being a professional service or royalty where such royalty is in the nature of consideration for sale comma distribution or exhibition of cinematographic films and 10% of such sum in other cases so in case of fees of technical services not being professional service 2% है in case of piece of royalty जहाँ पे royalty is in the nature of consideration of sale or distribution exhibition of cinematographic films in that case also 2% in case of pay engaged only in the business of operation of call center then the rate is only 2% and in any other cases it is 10% and what will be the timing will be when you are making the payment thereof so through check cash or any other mode that would be the timing of deducting TDS when you are making payment and threshold limit is what no deduction shall be made if amount of such fees credited or paid during that financial year to the pay does not exceed first अगर प्रोफेशनल फीस 30,000 से ज्यादा एक्सीड नहीं होती है तो टीडीएस नहीं कटेगा अदरवाइज इट विल बी डिडक्टेड fees for technical services also is same 30,000 then fees for commission by whatever named other on which tax is deductible under section 192 to a director of a company it is nil royalty again 30,000 rupees any sum referred in section 28 is also 30,000 then individual or HUF not to deduct tax if payment is for personal use अगर payment personal use के लिए तो individual or HUF will not deduct tax an individual or Hindu undivided family shall not be liable to deduct the TDS on the sum payable by way of fees on professional services or in case of sum is credited or paid exclusive for personal purpose तो वहां पे वो deduct नहीं करेंगे अगर personal purpose के लिए वो सारा then meaning of certain terms here professional services means कि जो ऐसी services जो है provide करना पर्सन इन द कोर्स ऑफ कैरिंग ऑन लीगल मेडिकल इंजीनियरिंग या टेक्निकल आर्किटेक्चरल प्रोफेशन हो सकता है प्रोफेशन ऑफ अकाउंटेंसी टेक्निकल कंसल्टेंसी और इंटीरियर डेकोरेशन और एडवर्टाइजमेंट और सच अदर प्रोफेशन इज नोटिफाइड बाय बोर्ड फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ सेक्शन ऑफ 44AA फॉर दिस सेक्शन ठीक है फीस फॉर टेक्निकल सर्विसेज shall have same meaning in explanation of 2 section 9 first 6th 7 sorry then royalty shall have the same meaning in explanation 2 of section 9 first 6th then income in of unit section 194K inserted by the act number 2 of 2020 with effect from 1st April 2020 यहाँ पे क्या है in respect of units के case में applicability होगी yes it is applicable if any person responsible for paying to resident any income in respect of unit of mutual fund unit from administrator unit from specified company shall deduct income tax thereon and what mutual fund specified is specified under section 10 subsection 23 and administrator for specified undertaking so in these cases there is applicability of TDS would be deducted and at what rate at rate of 10% timing kya hogi when the payment is made either through cash check or draft whichever is earlier okay and non applicability kab hogi jab iski jo income hai when the income is not exceeding rupees 5,000 and if income is of nature of capital gains then TDS will not be deducted then meaning of certain terms what is the, administrator specified company or specified undertaking uh, administrator means administrator is in section 2A of the unit trust of India they had defined the term administrator Transfer of Undertaking and Repeal Act 2002. Then specified company means a company as referred in Section 2H of the Unit Trust of India Transfer of Undertaking Repeal Act 2002. Then specified undertaking again shall have the meaning assigned to in Section 2(1) of Unit Trust of India Transfer of Undertaking and Repeal Act 2022 subsection. Then payment of compensation on acquisition of certain immovable property, section 194 LA. What is the applicability? जो भी person responsible है pay करने के लिए किसी भी resident को कुछ भी sum, any sum being in nature of compensation or enhance the compensation or consideration or enhance consideration account of compulsory acquisition under any law for the time being in force of any immovable property shall, at time of making such payment in cash or by issue of check, draft, or any other mode, whichever is earlier, should deduct what? 10% amount of such as income tax thereon. Okay, the equal to 10% of such sum as income tax thereon, they had to deduct. And what is the threshold limit? That is 2,50,000. It should not exceed 2,50,000. Then non-applicability, no deduction. कब नहीं होगा deduction? When such payment is made in respect of any award or agreement which has been exempted from the levy of tax under Section 96 and of the right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, and third, Rehabilitation Resettlement Act 2013. Then income by way of interest from infrastructure debt fund, where any income by way of interest is payable to non-resident not being a company या फिर वो foreign company है by an infrastructure debt fund referred to section 10 subsection 47, the person जो responsible है payment करने के लिए shall at time of credit of such income to the account of pay or at the time of payment in cash, check or through draft or any other mode, जो भी ज्यादा है तो at the rate of 5% they had to deduct the TDS. Then income in respect of units of investment funds. Investment funds के case में जो applicability rate and timing of TDS है, what it is? When where any income other than the proportion of income which is of the same nature as income referred to section 10 subsection 23 FBB is payable to unit holder in respect of units of an investment fund specified in explanation 1 of section 115 UB subsection A. The person responsible for making payment shall at time of credit of such income to account of pay or at the time of payment therefore in cash or by issue of check or draft any other mode जो भी earlier है उसको deduct करना है किस rate पे? At the rate of 10% where the pay is resident. अगर आपका पे रेजिडेंट है तो वहां पे 10% रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट से पे करना है, एंड एट द रेट इन फोर्स जहां पे पे इज नॉट अ रेजिडेंट, he is non-resident not being a company or a foreign company. So resident के case में what it is 10%. Non-resident not being company or foreign company, in that case if it is an individual or HUF 30%, firm or cooperative society or it is a local authority it is 40%. Non-applicability कहाँ पे होगी? जहाँ पे pay is non-resident not being a company or a foreign company. जो pay है वो non-resident है या फिर foreign company है तो कोई भी deduction हम income में नहीं करेंगे. Then income in respect of investment in securitization trust, it is according to section 194 LBC, and what it says, when where any income is payable being a resident in respect of investment being a resident in respect to investment in securities trust securitization trust specified in clause D or application explanation occurring after the section 115 TCA, at the rate if pay is individual or HUF rate of DDS will be 25%, and if the pay is another person then it would be 30%. Okay. Then income payable net of tax है तो वहां पे agreement है और that is to be borne by the person whose income is payable. Then interest on dividend or other sum payable to government, reserve bank or certain तो वहां पे कोई डिडक्शन नहीं होगा टैक्स का. एनी पर्सन फ्रॉम एनी सम पेबल टू गवर्नमेंट और रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया और कॉर्पोरेशन एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय अंडर सेंट्रल एक्ट व्हिच इज अंडर लॉ for time being in force exempt from income tax on its income, and a mutual fund specified under section 1023 subsection 23D. Okay, then income in respect of units, of non-resident section 196A, what it says, जो भी person responsible, any person responsible for paying non-resident not being a company or to a foreign company or any income in respect of units of mutual fund specified under section 10 subsection 23 D or from specified company referred to in explanation clause of 35 of section 10 shall at time of credit of such income to account of the payee or at the time of payment thereof, whichever mode they are using, they have to deduct income tax at the rate of 20%. Or non-applicability कहाँ होगी in the case of Unit Trust of India to a non-resident Indian or non-resident HUF के case में there is no applicability of TDS. And last is income from foreign currency bonds or shares of Indian company, section 196. What it says, where any income by way of interest or dividend in respect of bond or global depository GDR, global depository receipts, refer to section 115 AC or by way of long-term capital gains arising from transfer of such bonds or GDR is a payable to non-resident person responsible for making payment shall at time of credit of such income to account of pay or at time of payment thereof by any mode, whichever is earlier, should deduct the TDS at what rate? At 10%. Some main important things in which you had to know how much TDS is to be deducted at what rate of interest and at what is the applicability and what are the rate and timings of deducting TDS, and where what are the cases where there is no applicability of TDS. Okay, so this is about your TDS. Now next one will be your tax collected at source. What is it? What it is? It is the tax payable by seller which he collects from the buyer at the time of sale, and it is covered under section 206C of Income Tax Act, which governs that goods on which seller has to collect the tax from the purchaser. So goods that are covered under the TCS provision, TCS is your tax collected source, and the rates applicable thereon. What are they? When the below mentioned goods are utilized for purpose of manufacturing, processing या producing things, तो taxes are not available. अगर same goods हम utilize करें trading purpose के लिए तो हमारा tax applicable है, otherwise नहीं है. तो जो tax payable है is collected by seller at the time of sale, and rates of collected at source are different in case of different categories. Like type of goods, if it is a liquor of alcoholic nature made for consumption by human, the 1% tax rate. Then timber wood under forest lease, 2.50% is the rate. Tendu leaves, 5%. Then timber wood by any other mode in forest lease, 2.5%. Forest produce other than tendu leaves in timber, that is 2.5%. Scrap, 1%. Minerals like lignite, coal and iron ore, that is 1%. Then bullion that exceeds over rupees 2 lakh and jewelry that exceeds rupees 5 lakh, there is also 1%. Purchase of motor vehicle exceeding rupees 10 lakh is 1%. Then parking lot, toll plaza or mining and quarrying, that is 2%. So these are the different rates according to the different categories of goods. And classification of sellers and buyers for TCS, there are some specific people and organizations जो कि classify किए हैं, जिनको हमने classify किया है as sellers for TCS, tax collected at source. So other than no other seller of goods can collect tax at source apart from these agencies. Who are they? First is your central government, state government, then local authority, statutory corporation authority, then companies registered under the Companies Act, then partnership firms, cooperative society, or any other person or HUF who is subjected to an audit of accounts under Income Tax Act for that particular financial year. So these are the you can say agencies that are responsible for collecting tax collected at source. Then a buyer, who is a buyer? Buyer is a person who obtained goods of specified nature in any sale or right to receive such goods by way of auction, tender, or any other mode. However, those buyers are exempted from TCS in case of public sector companies, central government companies, state government, embassy of high commission, and consulate and other trade representatives of the foreign nation. क्लब्स सच एज स्पोर्ट्स क्लब्स, सोशल क्लब्स. अब टीसीएस पेमेंट एंड रिटर्न की बात करें तो व्हाट अबाउट टीसीएस टैक्स कलेक्टेड एट सोर्स पेमेंट एंड रिटर्न्स? All sum collected by an office of government should be deposited on same day of collection. Then seller deposit the TCS amount in challan in form of challan within 7 days from last day of month in which tax was collected. Then if tax collector is responsible for collecting tax, then depositing the same to government, does not collect the tax or after collecting does not pay to the government as per due dates, so that person is liable to pay interest of 1% per month or a part of month. then every tax collector has to submit quarterly TCS return. That is Form 27 EQ in respect of tax collected by him in particular quarter. The interest on delay in payment of TCS to government should be paid before filing of the return. And now सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ टीसीएस व्हेन ए टैक्स कलेक्टर जब फाइल कर देगा क्वार्टरली आपका टीसीएस रिटर्न इन द फॉर्म 27 EQ, then he has to provide what a TCS certificate to the purchaser of those goods. Then form 27D is a certificate issued for TCS return filed. तो आप रिटर्न फाइल करोगे तो फॉर्म नंबर 27D will be issued, which जिसमें आपकी ये डिटेल्स कंटेन होंगी, नेम ऑफ द सेलर एंड बायर, इट्स टेन नंबर, पेन नंबर of both buyer and seller, then total tax collected by the seller, then date of collection, rate of tax applied, and this is issued within the 15 days of date of filing this quarterly returns. और उसके ड्यू डेट्स क्या होंगे? क्वार्टर एंडिंग 30 जून, 30 जुलाई है, then quarter ending 30 September is 30 October, then quarter ending 31st December is your 30th January. For quarter ending on 31st March to 30, in case you have this return, then feel free to report at your clear tax. Then TCS exemptions क्या है? Tax collected at source is exempted in which cases? कहाँ पे आप exemption ले सकते हो? When the eligible goods are used for personal consumption, तो वहाँ पे आप TCS का जो है exemption ले सकते हो, and purchaser buy the goods of manufacturing, processing or production and not for the purpose of trading. तो वहाँ पे जहाँ पे जो purchaser है वो goods खरीद रहा है for what purpose? For manufacturing, for processing or production, but not for the trading purpose. So in that case वहाँ पे TCS exemption मिलेगा. Now TCS under GST. जब हम गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज एंड टैक्स की बात करते हैं तो वहां पे जो टैक्स कलेक्शन एट सोर्स है वो कैसे करेंगे? कोई भी डीलर या ट्रेडर जो सेल कर रहा है गुड्स को ऑनलाइन would get the payment in the online platform after deducting an amount of 1% under IGST and 0.5% in CGST and 0.5 in state SGST, state goods and service tax. Okay, state integrated state and central CGST. The tax would have to be deposited to the government by 10th of next month, and all dealers and traders are required to get registered under GST compulsorily, and these provisions are effective from 1st October 2018. जैसे कि for example जो राज seller है is a trader who sell clothes online on Flipkart and he receives order of rupees 10,000 inclusive of commission. तो Flipkart would thus be deducting tax of rupees 100, 1% of rupees 10,000 जो कि उसका commission है, income है. Now submission of form 24G. In case of an office of government where tax has been paid to credit of central government without the production of challan associated with that deposit of the tax in a bank, so below are the changes to the rules. Form 24G has to be submitted. तो पहला क्या है? Rules where TDS is deposited without challan, charges to rule 30. Just a second. Then if TDS has been deposited without a challan, so the person to whom TDS has been reported for depositing to the government, then such person has to submit a statement in the form 24G to the agency authorized by the principal director of income tax systems, rule 34 के according. Then 24G जो form वो submit करेगा, it must be submitted issued within 15 days from the end of relevant month. For the month of March, form should be submitted by 30th April. Okay, then form 24G वो जो submit करेगा, it should be electronically under digital signature. Second, electronically along with verification in form 27C, 27A, then verified through an electronic process as prescribed. Then जो person referred to in bullet 1 shall inform the book identification number generated to each of the deductors from whom some deductor has been deposited. इसके अलावा जो प्रिंसिपल डायरेक्टर है इनकम टैक्स सिस्टम का वो स्पेसिफाई करेगा जो भी प्रोसीजर है उसको वेरीफाई करने का, कंप्लीट करने का स्टेटमेंट 24G का. देन रूल्स जहां पे टीसीएस अंडर सेक्शन 206C इज डिपॉजिटेड विदाउट चालान, चेंजेस टू रूल 37CA फॉलो करेंगे. इफ TCS has been ये वही रिपीट हो रहा है, TDS हो गया ये, ठीक है, यहाँ पे रिपीट हो जाता. Then if form 24G pertains to month of March, it must be submitted on or before 30th April. Form 24G must be issued electronically under digital signature, electronically under along with the verification in Form 27A or verified through electronic process as prescribed. So person refer to in bullet 1 shall inform book identification number generated to each deductor from which some deductor has been deposited. So principal director जो जनरल इनकम टैक्स का वो स्पेसिफाई करेगा जो भी प्रोसेस है उसको वेरिफिकेशन को कंप्लीट करने के लिए और फंड उस चीज को वेरिफिकेशन को कंप्लीट करने के लिए और फर्निश करने के लिए ऑफ फॉर्म 24G का. Now GST is what? GST is basically a revolutionary step taken by our government in Indian economy. On 1st July, government of India announced it, where new way of tax payment with GST is came into force as compared to the previous tax payment system, that is through VAT. As GST is newly introduced system in India, many people are still unaware that what it is. So why is it good for business? Why is it good for common man? So there are a lot of speculation about its implication, tax rate brackets. So we will cover here this thing. So GST is what? It is simple, sophisticated consumer of how government is collecting tax from businessmen and individual citizens. It is कि पुराना ट्रेडिशनल सिस्टम था जहाँ पे बेसिकली हम क्या करते थे प्रीवियस टैक्स सिस्टम में मल्टीपल कंफ्यूजिंग टैक्स रेट्स होते थे हमारा इन द फॉर्म ऑफ वैट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ सर्विस टैक्स सेक्स टैक्स एंटरटेनमेंट टैक्स then sales tax. So various taxes at a time they had to pay, consumer had to pay for their business. So now with the introduction of GST, only one type of tax they had to pay. So GST is a consumption based tax, which means tax should be received by state in which goods and services are consumed, not by the state in which goods are manufactured. तो जहाँ पे consume हो रहे हैं वहाँ पे GST they had to pay, उस state में नहीं देना जहाँ पे वो manufacture हो रहे हैं. So GST tax system will take form of dual GST, which is concurrently levied by central and state government. GST बेसिकली 3 कंपोनेंट से बना है जिसमें सेंट्रल CGST, SGST एंड UTGST है एंड IGST है विच आर डिटरमाइंड बाय मूवमेंट ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. जो हमारा CGST है दैट इज योर सेंट्रल गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स, स्टेट गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स एंड IGST योर इंट्रा स्टेट मूवमेंट और इंटर स्टेट मूवमेंट GST टैक्स. सो जितने भी हमारे इकोनॉमिक्स एंड एक्सपर्ट्स हैं दे हैड प्रेडिक्टेड दैट कि जो GST बिल है द GST विल बूस्ट अप द इकोनॉमी इन long run, but we see some short term impact on economy too. So India is a collective economy where each state has its own set of rules for them. This makes growth of the country slow, causes difficulties in the business and higher possibilities of tax evasion and corruption. So previous system it was so complex, so small business basically used to ignore it while using. So to make the tax payment simpler and to create a win-win environment for both government and as well as business and to reduce the corruption, GST bill was introduced in India. So let's see why GST is good for India, for business or for the common people of India. How you can calculate GST. जैसे मैंने अभी बताया था in very starting of my class, what you had to do, you had to go to the GST tally main gateway of tally, where you had to go to the statutory and taxation features option. वहां पे आपका ये वाला window appear होगा. This steps I already had told you. तो यहाँ पे जैसे VAT है, आपका एक्साइज ड्यूटी है, इनेबल सर्विस टैक्स है, TDS है जो हमने यस किया था. अब यहाँ पे आपको GST का भी ऑप्शन होगा जो आपको यस करना है और अगर यस कर दोगे एक्सेप्ट का ऑप्शन आएगा देन यू हैव टू सेलेक्ट इट एज यस एंड देन यू कैन कैलकुलेट GST ऑन योर प्रोडक्ट्स एंड सर्विसेज. एंड इफ यू वांट टू alter the details, that is you want some modification, then you had to go back and select the GST details and then can make the changes. Okay, set or alters. Now this is the state shows the state name in the selected company creation. This helps in identify local and interstate transaction. यहाँ पे आप states भी जो है जो आपने GST details डाली थी कि कितने मंथ का है, किस डेट से है, ई-वे बिल जनरेट करना है या नहीं, किसके नाम से, किस स्टेट के नाम से, तो वो सारे आप यहाँ पे चेंज कर सकते हैं. यूपी है तो जो भी स्टेट में जहाँ पे वो मैन्युफैक्चर हो रहा है वो नहीं जहाँ पे देखोगे. ओके, सो दीज आर द स्टेप्स. देन मेरिट्स एंड डीमेरिट्स. हर कोई भी न्यू टेक्निक आती है तो उसके प्रोज एंड कॉन्स होते हैं. तो GST हैज इट्स ओन एडवांटेज एंड डिसएडवांटेजेस. जस्ट अ सेकेंड. Okay. GST has its own advantages. It is a simple tax system because you had not to pay so many taxes. At a time you had to pay only one tax. So taxpayer is not confused about what type of taxes he or she had to pay. And there is only one tax as GST. So agenda of government behind introducing this tax is one nation, one tax. This was the main agenda. So GST Act is going to of taxes from the Indian businessmen and manufacturers. They now must pay lower tax, and it will surely increase the scope of better business environment and flexibility. So these are some of the advantages. Then developed countries in Germany, Switzerland, they have moved to a common GST to provide one common window for tax collection. So now GST has become a standard for global business, and India, being progressive toward the development, had to embrace the uniform, sophisticated tax system GST. Now about tax on tax. So previous tax system जहाँ पे हम एक के बाद एक tax पे out करते थे, that has been removed. Every coin has a two side, like GST has introduced. So whenever anything is introduced, it has pros and cons. So these were the pros, and what are the cons, what are the negative sides, or you can say what are the limitations. So GST has its own set of drawbacks or disadvantages or limitations. What it is: firstly, GST is a newly introduced tax system in India, so a common man is unaware about it, how GST works, or works more over citizens and are used to previous direct taxes. So it would be take time to digest the whole being change and get familiar to GST. So it's a very common thing. जब भी कोई नई चीज introduce होती है, तो it's a human nature that we resist it. So first of all, and then धीरे धीरे we opt it. Okay, so likewise, GST is also a newly introduced tax system in India, so common man is not much aware about it. So it would be take time to digest for them to digest this big change and get familiar with the GST. Along with that, business software processing like accounting and ERP software need to be updated with this latest tax system. Like if you work on previous softwares जो कि latest version के नहीं है, तो वहाँ पे GST का option आपको available नहीं होगा में. And that's why I'm not showing, because in my software also it is not being updated. यहाँ पे सिर्फ VAT है और बाकी tax collected at source, बाकी options है, but GST is not included. In prime version you can get it. Okay. Then same way, invoices needs to be GST complaint, or as there is a hefty fine, small business may not afford the transition. So CA services are needed for calculating GST. Then filing taxes also faces some technical problems, just like most of the time digital signatures don't work. So a lot of people don't know the technical know-how to how to solve that problem. So in that case, he asks for hand over digital signature so that he or she can sign digitally on any document. Okay, so government is not spreading awareness about it. Though it has been said that there will be only one tax, and under GST in reality there are different tax slabs. Tax which slabs are there, slab taxes are there, which ranges from 0% to 3, 5, 12, 18, and 28%. On top of which there are differences need to be paid, and there are other smaller problems which arising not directly because of GST, but due to indirect effects. So in reality, if I say this is the one tax or one nation one tax, जो इसका theme है, tagline है, but in reality it is not. आपको और भी जो है taxes in reality, if you saw, there are some other slab rates also, 3%, 5%, 12, 18, and 28% that you had to pay. So small manufacturers जो deal कर रहे हैं high tax materials will buy from unregistered vendors to evade these high rate taxes. Okay, तो वो अनरजिस्टर्ड वेंडर से परचेज करते हैं, सेल आउट करते हैं अपने प्रोडक्ट्स एंड सर्विसेज, जिससे कि वो ये high rate taxes जो है avoid कर सके. So we have seen some hotels and restaurants also taking advantage of GST, charge customers higher taxes. Okay, by giving the excuse of GST कि मैम GST लग गया या सर GST लग गया. Okay, so government is still revising these tax brackets. Business still are not able to understand the process which was claimed to be simpler than the earlier system. So this is the summary about your GST. Now about the reporting, कि अगर आप जो ट्रायल बैलेंस स्टेटमेंट है, लेजर अकाउंट है, कैश बुक है, इन सब के अगर आपको रिपोर्ट्स जनरेट करने हैं थ्रू टैली, थ्रू टैली सॉफ्टवेयर, अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर, एनी अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर। तो ट्रांजेक्शन्स बेसिकली जो भी हमारे रिस्पेक्टिव वाउचर्स में होते हैं, जो वाउचर्स मैंने कल क्रिएट करने बताए थे, आई हैव टोल्ड यू हाउ टू क्रिएट दोज वाउचर्स, दैट इज योर पेमेंट वाउचर और योर credit voucher, debit voucher, or it may be a payment voucher, ledger accounts, trial balance, P&L account। तो ये सारे जो vouchers आप create करते हो, if you want the report of these, तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इज योर कैश बुक। कैश बुक वाउचर में जो है कंपनी रिकॉर्ड करती है जितने भी आपके ट्रांजेक्शन्स कैश को अफेक्ट करेंगे। सो ऑल द दोज ट्रांजेक्शन्स आर रिकॉर्डेड दैट आर अफेक्टिंग कैश, तो हेंस इट ब्रिंग्स ऑल ट्रांजेक्शन्स अंडर द कैश बुक। और जब हम कैश बुक ओपन करेंगे तो हम गेटवे ऑफ टैली पे जाएंगे, डिस्प्ले करेंगे अकाउंट्स बुक, जिसमें हमारा कैश बुक इस तरीके से डिस्प्ले होगा। ओके, लाइक वाइज आप ये सारी ओपनिंग क्लोजिंग किस कंपनी का है, कंपनी नेम, डेट, ओपनिंग बैलेंस, क्लोजिंग बैलेंस, टोटल अमाउंट, कैश, बैंक अकाउंट्स, नरेशन, सब कुछ देख सकते हो। ओके, तो यहाँ पे दिस इज अबाउट अमाउंट। ओके, then next is if you want to display every from among the ledger every वाउचर, उसका हर का जो भी आपको रिक्वायर्ड है उसका आप जो है वाउचर का प्रिंट ले सकते हो, ठीक है, डिस्प्ले कर सकते हो। लाइक वाइज इफ यू वांट रिगार्डिंग ट्रायल बैलेंस क्या शो करता है, जितने भी आपके लेजर अकाउंट्स हैं उनके बैलेंसेस को, कि वेदर डेबिट एंड क्रेडिट balanced or not, whether the total of all debits and all credits are balanced. So what it shows summary of ledger balances to check whether the figures are corrected and balanced. अगर नहीं है balanced, then it means there is some error you had made and it will be put on suspense account. But in case of vouchers, it may not happen because you are doing the entries through software. Okay, so to view the report of that, what you had to do, you had to go to the gateway of tally, click display trial balance, then trial balance will appear this like this window screen. Then in that you can see the total of debit and total of credit. Okay, and when you click on details button, then these details may be shown. Likewise, in case of profit and loss account, again you have to go to the gateway of tally, profit and loss account you have to select, and this type of window screen will appear and you can get the total display of that and you can generate this report. Okay, then balance sheet, same, assets and liabilities. The in balance sheet also you have to go to the gateway of tally, select display of balance sheet option, and then this screen will appear where the total of assets, what are those, and its amount of the company name along with the company name, liabilities, then total you can see. Okay, and if any alteration you want to do, then you can do it in the final accounts of same steps you can follow on. Then cash flow statement basically shows the inflow and outflow of cash, in which cash inflow and outflow are divided into three categories. Cash flow statement is divided into three categories. First is your operating activity, investing in financing activity, and accordingly you can prepare cash flow manually by taking the data from journals. However, if you are doing it manually, it takes so much of time. So for that purpose, through accounting software, you can prepare the cash flow statement, and basically highlights of cash flow statement, what it includes. It includes aging of payments and receipt, cash balance, committed payment, day-wise cash position, interest calculation on overdues, benefits or direct and indirect method, both methods the company can follow, and income statement ke according like this it will appear, and these are the examples. Then what you have to do, first of all, you as you have created a company, then you have created ledger accounts. After that, tally already had created, then go to the gateway of tally, select the master's account info, ledger, multiple ledger, create under group all items shown in the figure. So ye sare all groups you would select, and after that you go to the display account book, ledger, cash, then cash ledger would appear like this. Then gateway of tally, cash flow, fund flow, these options will appear. Then if you want to see the cash flow statement or fund flow statement, then you have to select these options and accordingly this will appear. Okay, this is your cash flow statement, cash receipts and payments. Okay, like this, cash receipts and cash payments. And cash flow statement अगर आप manually करते हो तो like this it will appear. That was through software. Fund flow में क्या है कि statement basically is divided into two पार्ट सोर्सेज ऑफ फंड एंड एप्लीकेशन ऑफ फंड. द टर्म फंड्स मींस वर्किंग कैपिटल. जो डिफरेंस है बिटवीन टू शोज द नेट चेंज इन वर्किंग कैपिटल ड्यूरिंग अ पीरियड. So fund flow statement basically is what? It is a supplement of two principal financial statement. While supplementing the position statement, it describes sources from which additional funds were derived and for which these funds were used. कि कहाँ से application part है, कहाँ से वो लिए हैं और कहाँ पे वो use हुए हैं. ठीक है, तो funds. तो ये एक फंड फ्लो स्टेटमेंट बैलेंस शीट का डेटा है जिसमें आप क्या करोगे स्टेटमेंट. तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इनके नाम से जो है डेटा अपना डालना है. पुट ऑन द डेटा इन द सॉफ्टवेयर. देन व्हाट यू हैव टू डू, go to the gateway of Tally, masters account info, ledger, multiple ledger, create and under group all items you had to create it. You had increase and decrease from 1922, the primary general voucher. And in middle part, if you want to view your fund status, you can display it, cash fund flow or fund flow statement. तो जब display करोगे तो it will appear like this. And button auto column is the button bar, can change the view of manner you want. And fund flow statement tally में आप क्या करोगे, displays a bar chart at the bottom. ये देखो bar chart है at the bottom, similar to cash flow statement. Difference is positive fund flow is shown above the x-axis और जो negative fund flow है वो of compared to two bars for inflow and outflow in cash flow statement is shown below. ठीक है, तो वो negative वाला below show होगा. तो cash flow statement में जो inflow and outflow of cash है वो show होता है, opening and closing balance of funds are displayed. ठीक है. So this was about cash flow and fund flow. Now in Tally I'm going to let you see कि आप जब गेटवे ऑफ टेली पे जाओगे, मास्टर्स अकाउंट, इन्वेंट्री, ट्रांजैक्शंस में अकाउंटिंग वाउचर्स, लेजर्स आप क्रिएट कर लोगे, इन्वेंट्री वाउचर्स क्रिएट कर लोगे. इफ यू वांट इंपोर्ट योर डाटा, ऑलरेडी आपके पास डेटा है तो उसको इंपोर्ट कर सकते हो. रिपोर्ट्स आप यहाँ से जनरेट करोगे, वेदर इट इज ऑफ कैश बुक, ट्रायल बैलेंस, लेजर अकाउंट्स, P&L, बैलेंस शीट, फंड फ्लो स्टेटमेंट और. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे अगर बैलेंस शीट का रिपोर्ट है तो ये आपका लाइबिलिटीज है, दीज आर योर एसेट्स, और इस तरीके से आपका शो हो जाएगा. ओके, देन इसमें अगर आपको मॉडिफिकेशंस करने हैं वो आप कर सकते हो. देन कॉन्फ़िगरेशन में आप सेट कर सकते हो किस तरीके से आपको डेटा शो करना है. एंड फीचर्स में इस तरीके से आप फीचर्स में अगर कुछ ऐड ऑन करना चाहते हो वो ऐड कर लोगे. देन रेंज आप डिफाइन कर सकते हो. देन क्विट. दिस वाज अबाउट बैलेंस शीट. देन प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट. प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट इस तरीके से आपका नेट प्रॉफिट लॉस शो होगा. इसमें भी अगर आपको जो कॉन्फ़िगरेशन पे जाके कुछ चेंजेस करने, यू कैन मेक दैट कि आपका वर्टिकल प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस वर्टिकल उसमें शो हो या फिर हॉरिजॉन्टल सही है. इफ यू वांटेड वर्टिकल देन यू हैड टू ऑप्ट यस. देन शो इन परसेंटेजेस, ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट शो करना है, जीरो क्लोजिंग बैलेंस. तो ये सारे ऑप्शंस अकॉर्डिंग टू यू कैन सेलेक्ट. Okay, then next is your quit stock summary. Like this you can get your stock summary. Again you can do the features. देख सकते हो इसमें कोई changes करने, otherwise configuration you can go for whatever changes you want to, quantity, rate, values, opening balance, goods in word, like this. Okay, then quit about रेशियो एनालिसिस. रेशियो एनालिसिस भी आप इसमें देख सकते हो, जितने भी आपके रेशियोज हैं वर्किंग कैपिटल से रिलेटेड, करंट रेशियो, क्विक रेशियो, डेट इक्विटी, ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट, नेट प्रॉफिट, ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट. तो आप जो उसकी रिपोर्ट है रेशियोज की, प्रिंसिपल रेशियोज की, उनकी देख सकते हो रिलेटेड टू योर प्रिंसिपल ग्रुप्स. Again, configuration, if you want any changes, vertical analysis or explanatory lines you want, you can select the option yes and then save it. Okay, and if you want to say change some alter column, so then you can change the date. Then value, actual quantity की क्या वैल्यू आपको जो है कैलकुलेट करनी है रिपोर्ट में ऑफ वाउचर, हैविंग एक्चुअल क्वांटिटी, और जो भी आपका जो डेटा आपको रिक्वायर्ड है जिस भी वाउचर का, उसके अकॉर्डिंग आप ये सेलेक्ट कर लोगे. ओके, देन अगेन क्विट. देन डिस्प्ले ऑफ रिपोर्ट्स. डिस्प्ले ऑफ रिपोर्ट्स में आप ट्रायल बैलेंस देख सकते हो अपना, जो भी आप लेजर अकाउंट्स ऐड करोगे उसका. देन डे बुक, द अकाउंट्स बुक, स्टेटमेंट ऑफ अकाउंट, इन्वेंट्री, स्टैट्यूटरी, कैश एंड फंड फ्लो, रिसिप्ट्स एंड पेमेंट्स. जो भी आपको सारी चीजें जिनका भी आपको रिपोर्ट्स लेने हैं वो यहाँ से आप ऐसे जनरेट कर सकते हो. कुछ चेंजेस करने, ऑल्टर कर सकते हो, डेट एंड पीरियड चेंज कर सकते हो. So this was about your tally fourth unit. Um, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So any doubt regarding today's session? आशु कुमारी, कोई डाउट है बच्चे प्रीवियस सेशन में जो अभी तक लिए हैं या फिर इन करंट सेशन? इफ देयर इज एनी डाउट यू मे आस्क नाउ. Any doubt? So should I end the class? Students, you can ask the doubts. Okay, so I'm going to end the class. I think no doubt is there, and I had completed your fourth unit. So in next session, your last unit will be covered. That is about your audit reports, how you can generate your audit reports, what are the importance of it, why they are needed, what things should be considered while you are having the audit of those reports. So these things of unit fifth we will discuss. Okay. So thank you, class.